Everybody just settle in for a minute. Let's take a deep breath. Exhale and relax. Let's do that a couple more times. Take another deep breath in. And exhale and relax. And one more time, deep breath in. And exhale and relax. Let's just be present together in this moment. Present together for this lesson, and know that the words that we hear, the feelings that we feel, the thoughts that we think are always divinely guided. And let's take a moment and just be grateful for those things, grateful for that connection, and grateful to be in the presence of Source, with Source, and creating as Source. And so it is. So the title of today's lesson is Gratitude and Attitude, the Art of a Joyful Journey. And it's this time of year that we talk a lot about gratitude, and it's really easy to talk about gratitude when things are going well, but sometimes when things are not going so well, we get in that space in our head where it can be a little more difficult to find things to be grateful for. But gratitude is really important, especially since we are vibrational spiritual beings, and being in a state of gratitude allows us to keep our vibration high, which in turn means that the way that we interact with everything else in the world is going to be from a elevated level and then create a more positive daily experience. Today, we really want to look at how gratitude and attitude shape vibration, which is how we create our lives. You see, gratitude is not just an emotion, it's a frequency. Everything starts with frequency and energy, and that frequency aligns us with more good. Attitude, on the other hand, is our mental posture. It's our mental state, and how we actually interact with the world is our standard vibration in the world of form. And when we understand that everything in existence responds to our energetic vibration, we can begin to understand how our world is really reflecting back what we are inside. So when that outer world feels like chaos, really we need to focus a little bit more on our inner world, because that's where it's starting. As students of spiritual principle, we know that the universe responds to the nature of our thoughts. Everything in the outer world reflects the inner world, and everything begins in mind. Just as everything a plant needs to exist is contained within one single seed, everything we demonstrate in our physical reality is actually contained within our thoughts. Ernest Holmes gave us many wonderful quotes, especially regarding the connection between our thoughts and our external reality. One of the most famous ones being, change your thinking, change your life. We've all heard that one. Another quote I love of his is, life is a mirror, and it will reflect back to the thinker what he thinks into it. There's a lot of spiritual principle behind gratitude and attitude. Life mirrors our consciousness. What we continually dwell on or think about over and over again becomes the lens in how we view absolutely everything that we interact with. A grateful consciousness is receptive, it's open, it's abundant, and we're able to bring in that abundance and allow it to flow to us and through us a lot easier when we're in a state of gratitude. So imagine for a minute, you wake up in the morning, you've had a terrible night, your neighbor's dog barked all night long, you had terrible sleep, you spill your coffee, it's an awful day. You get on the highway, somebody cuts you off, you get angry, people are so rude, right? You get mad, you go to work, you say good morning to somebody, a coworker is just like looking at you like you're crazy, they don't really respond, right? And you're like, man, everybody's just so rude. What is wrong with people in this world today, right? And then maybe your boss gives you a piece of feedback, and all of a sudden it's criticism. And you are offended. You're not taking it well at all. You're just taking it in, and you're like, oh my God, I can't do anything right for this person, right? Some of us may have experienced that a few times in our journeys, just a few times, right? But now picture this. You wake up in the morning, you take a deep breath, even though you're tired, you're warm, and you recognize that you have heat in your house. You recognize the comfort of your pillow. You recognize the comfort of your bed. You take a few minutes, you think about your day and how you want it to go, how you want it to flow. You imagine things going well, right? You become very grateful. You get up, you spilled your coffee on your shirt, but you know what? You did laundry this week, so you got another clean shirt right there. So you change your clothes. You put on a different shirt. You enjoy your breakfast. Somebody cuts you off in traffic and you're like, whew, thank God I didn't just get in a wreck, right? You get to work. You say good morning to that coworker, and that coworker's, and you're like, oh, they must be busy or having a bad day. A little bit later, your boss gives you a piece of feedback, and you're like, man, I've been doing that all wrong. I just given the opportunity to redirect that and do something a little bit different and a little bit better, right? It's the same day. The same circumstances happened throughout that day. But on one hand, we went into this whole state of consciousness and this whole attitude that lacked any type of compassion or connection with Source. And on the other hand, we started our morning in a place of gratitude, and we started our morning in a place of connection with Source, and everything flowed easier. The circumstances were the same, the challenges were the same. The perception of how our day was going could be very different depending on the energy that we put ourselves in, right? Same day, different lens, totally different day, totally different reality. Starting our day in a positive manner, like in this example with gratitude, can help shape our attitude for the day. When our attitudes are untrained, they create unnecessary resistance. Resistance to the flow of life makes everything more complicated than it needs to be. We create our own chaos a lot of times, most of the time in my case. Starting our day in a positive manner really helps people adjust that, right? Many people walk through life thinking that they don't have the time to do the things that they need to do. They don't have time to concentrate on their own well-being. They don't have time to drink that extra cup of water in the morning. They don't have time to do a spiritual practice. They don't have time, they don't have time, they don't have time, because that external world can get really chaotic and really busy. And yes, I know exactly what it's like to have 10 million things on your to-do list and an agenda that is packed from 5 a.m. to the morning to 10 p.m. at night. I've been there. I've done that. Sometimes I still do it. And it's crazy. But the only way that I can manage it is by making sure that I make that time, right? I schedule that time into my life. I have to, because really, when the external world is chaotic, I've got to manage my inner world. I remember being in food service and being a training manager for a major company. And part of my job, I was a marketing specialist, but also a retail manager. And so I would go into different kitchens, and I would go into different units, and I would kind of do a quality assessment of their whole service. And 99% of the time, the biggest problem they had was that their employees needed to be trained, right? A lot of companies in general will just be like, okay, you're hired. Now go do this. Here's some minimal instruction. Good luck. And they'll walk away, right? And so I would see that over and over and over again. And I would go to executive chefs and I would say things like, hey, you know, you guys aren't up to standard, and our bosses are not happy that we're not up to standard, and we just need to do some retraining for the employees. And the immediate response I got from every single person was, I don't have time to train my employees. If we don't have time to train, that's the one thing that fixes everything, right? Whether it's in the workforce or whether it's here in our heart, here in our thoughts and our heads, right? That is the one thing that fixes everything else. All of our problems are affected by that one thing. So an untrained mind gets really chaotic. But when we do take the time to help train our mind, to help focus on spiritual practice, then all the things seem to fall into place a lot easier. Everything will seem to connect with Source a lot easier, and when we connect with Source a lot easier, guess what else we connect with a lot easier? Joy. And joy is really the wonderful thing to experience. The hard truth is, if our outer world feels like chaos, it's because our inner world is chaos. If we can't wait for life to improve. We have to improve our consciousness, and life will follow. We must train our attitudes and we must train our thoughts, or we run the risk of them running amok and controlling us. We run the risk of allowing those thoughts to let us experience life through a lens that we might not want to look at. We might not want to view life through. And that just creates more stress in our experience. So the quote you'll find on your card today in your pamphlet says, "Gratitude is one of the chief graces of human existence, and it is crowned in heaven with a consciousness of unity." Gratitude is a creative force all of its own. Not only is it a spiritual principle, but if you are a student of psychology, you know how important it is to the mind in general. Practices like gratitude help build neural pathways. I have two parents with dementia, and so I've done a lot of research about dementia and learned a lot of things about how the brain works and the mind works, and neural pathways are really important for all of us. It builds resilience in our brains, right? So if there's a part of our brain that doesn't quite function very much anymore, practices like gratitude and focusing on intention and things like that, those mindful practices, they're not just good for our soul, they're good for our brain. They start building new pathways, and our brain can start using other parts of our brain when one part is lacking, right? Now studies are showing that it's helping with dementia. It's helping to prevent dementia, amongst a lot of other things, brain injuries and things like that. So gratitude is really a key in that, and it's a creative force all of its own. It opens the channel and it puts us in harmony with that creative process. Anybody remember what the creative process is? Chirp, chirp, chirp. That's okay. That's why I'm here. I'm going to tell you. So for those of you that don't remember exactly what the creative process is, everything starts in mind, right? We have one consciousness, one mind, one infinite intelligence that operates throughout everything in the universe. Everything begins with mind. Mind sends us some medium. We take our feelings, our thoughts, we add it to that medium, we give it back to mind, and mind creates it and demonstrates it in the world of form. Okay? It's a very simplistic analogy of how mind works, but that's the creative process. So our thoughts and our attitude and how we approach things and view things is really important for how things demonstrate in the world around us. When we give thanks, we are affirming that good is already present and still unfolding. As the affirming belief aligns with that creative process, we manifest more good into our journey. Gratitude also shifts perception. It doesn't require circumstances or perfect circumstances, and it can be found throughout all situations. It can be found through painful situations, bittersweet moments, even moments of growth that aren't always comfortable, but we can still find things to be grateful for there. We can use it to bless what is working instead of obsessing on what is not working. That always makes for a better day. Gratitude can even allow us to see changes as invitations for growth and evolving, right? So like I said, I have two parents with dementia, and I talk a little bit about them, but I don't really talk in public a lot about it, because the first thing that happens is as soon as I say, oh, I have two parents with dementia, everyone goes, oh, right? And y'all, I'm not sad. That's the weird thing. Throughout these circumstances, I am more grateful for the time that I have with my parents right here, right now, and the experiences that I have with them than I have ever been in my entire life. And I really look forward to that. I look forward to interacting with them regularly, whereas I didn't necessarily have that great of a relationship with them when I was younger, right? So it's become a really beautiful thing. So for Thanksgiving, my brother and I went down to visit my father. My father, some of you guys have heard me talk about. He has lived a very colorful life. He loves life, and he is living his best 87-year-old life in his assisted living. Has a new girlfriend who he knows is much younger than he is, but we don't know how young. She is deaf as a doornail and can't hear anything, and he doesn't remember much. And so we don't think that they really talk a lot. But we had a great Thanksgiving with Dad. We went out, we got down at 11 in the morning, and as we're pulling in, I look at my brother and I'm like, he's probably not thinking or remembering that we said we were going to do dinner around 5. So he's going to be hungry when we get there. He will have forgotten to eat lunch. And sure enough, we pull in and he's like, okay, let's go. And we're like, okay, well, all right, we'll do breakfast first. We'll go to Waffle House because it's Thanksgiving, and what is open in a small town? Waffle House, right? And so we had a lovely breakfast at Waffle House. So we went back. We ended up having dinner at Cracker Barrel or something, and that was great. It was fine. We had a good time. And before we left that night, we were like, okay, Dad, we're going to swing back by in the morning before we leave. Okay, I look forward to it. We'll see you guys then. Okay, sounds great. So 9 o'clock in the morning rolls around. I look at my brother. I'm like, you know what? He's not going to remember that we said that we were going to come by today. I said we're going to have to figure out where he is, and hopefully he's not hanging out with his girlfriend. We'll see how that happens. She's wonderful. I don't mean it in a negative way at all. Let me finish the story. So we go in, and one of the staff members saw us, and she said, "Oh, let me find him." And we're like, "Oh, he's not in his room. We know where he is." And so we take our time getting to her room, and the housekeeper that we had just met in the hallway said, "I knocked on the door for you. You might want to give him 5 minutes." I said, okay. So we knock on the door, they come to the door, and it becomes very evident that we're not going to hang out for very long. The lipstick around his mouth matched her lipstick, and I'm like, okay, this is great though. Like, if y'all knew my dad, like, to see, I am so grateful that this is what his life looks like at 87 at the end of his life. Because before we moved him into this assisted living, him sitting home alone all day and watching movies was not the ending that would have been appropriate for Tom Borst's life. It was not. He is literally living his best life at 87 years old in an assisted living home, right? He's having a great time. My mom's journey is a little bit different. It's a little bit different. He has Alzheimer's, she has Lewy body dementia. And Lewy body dementia comes with a schizophrenia-like psychosis. So bad days with mom are out there, and I will tell you that if you are a writer and you need some good sci-fi material, you should definitely find someone with dementia and a schizophrenia-like psychosis, because the realities that she thinks she's in sometime, I'm like, oh my God. I'm looking them up to see if they're conspiracy theories. I'm like, are we talking about aliens from another dimension right now? What is happening? But she is not fazed by it. Like, she's not upset, she's not scared, she's not in pain, right? She just has this whole other reality. And so I get really grateful for the moments that number one, when my stepdad has had too much and he cannot take it, he will call me. I'm the go-to person. I need you to get your mother inside. She is outside in her nightgown in 50-degree weather. Okay, I'll talk her down. And you know what? We will come to a compromise. She doesn't need to be outside to wait for whoever is coming for her. She can wait inside. And I will convince her to wait inside. And then we will get her a chair, pull it up to the back door, and give her a blanket. And she is warm, and she is happy, and she is in her own world at that moment. But you know what? She's safe, and that was our goal. And so I am grateful for those. I'm grateful to be able to help in those situations. I'm grateful for the moments that I get to interact with her in those moments, right? And I'm grateful that, I don't know, she's not in pain and she's not scared. It would trip me out. I would freak out, right? And anybody hearing this kind of stuff might freak out about what somebody else is experiencing. But in those moments, she's not freaking out. She is cool as a cucumber through all of it. So I'm really grateful for all those things. I'm grateful that I get to experience all of this and have these funny stories, right? I mean, they really are. A lot of them are really funny stories. So it's been a situation where even though it's difficult, even though it is very out of the ordinary, there is so much gratitude within every moment that I now spend with them that I don't even mind the weird circumstances. I don't mind that it has shifted into something that it wasn't before, right? So I have to be grateful for that. These situations I experience with my parents are just that. They're experiences. It's my attitude and my gratitude and the way that I attach my feelings to those experiences that make them good or bad within my reality, right? There are some great practices, some that I use and that you can use throughout the day. Gratitude practices are wonderful because, again, that can help really elevate our frequency and just kind of keep it there, especially if you do them throughout the day. So some simple things, we all know gratitude lists, right? If you want to get real fancy with your gratitude lists, my favorite way to do it, and I actually wrote a daily spiritual inventory book that uses this. So I take some examples of things that I'm grateful for from the past, some examples I'm grateful for things now, and some things that I am grateful for that I want to manifest in the future, right? That way it bridges gratitude across past, future, present, all of those, and it helps me focus on what it is that I want more of in my future and allows that frequency to hit those things, right? So that's one thing that I do. A very quick way, if you were one of those people who was like, I do not have time for a spiritual practice, cool, all right, I'm going to tell you how to have time. Number one, I want you to figure out how much time you have. You have 60 seconds each day, 2 minutes each day, 5 minutes each day, what do you have? Figure out what you have and just commit to that, no matter how small it is, right? Start with something called a gratitude blitz. Set a timer on your phone, 1 minute, 2 minutes, and just get out a notebook and start writing down everything you're grateful for. I promise you, after the first or second time you do this, you're not going to want to stop when that timer goes off because it feels so good to get into that moment of gratitude. Another thing you can do is a simple thank you as a mantra throughout your day. Just try to see anything to be thankful for. Thank you, thank you, thank you, right? Thank you for that door working correctly. Thank you for that cup of coffee this morning. Thank you that even though it's raining outside, I didn't get very wet when I came in today, right? Anything you can say thank you for, say thank you. And if you can do that throughout your day, you're going to keep that kind of gratitude frequency up, right? Now, we talked about ways to focus on gratitude, but how do we train our attitude? Because that's a little different, right? First, we need to understand that attitude is a spiritual choice. It is. Attitude is the atmosphere of our thinking. We choose the energy we bring into each moment. What is that energy? What do you want that energy to look like? You get to choose what you want that energy to look at like. And if an energy comes up in a moment that you're expressing that you don't like, guess what you can do? Change it, redirect it, recognize that you don't like it, and then do something to redirect it, right? The creative process is always working, whether we're conscious of it or not. It's bringing us what we are energetically aligned with, so it's really in our best interest to manage the energy we're putting out into the world, and that attitude determines our resilience, our creativity, and how we respond to everything. We have the ability to transform our attitude in any given situation. We are capable of transforming irritation into curiosity, fear into faith, and judgment into compassion. We can reframe any situation by recognizing the oneness in everything. When we view the world with the eyes of Source and recognize that the presence of God is in all things, ever present, ever growing, all powerful, capable of unlimited possibilities, and that it's really flowing through everything, then we can alchemize the energy of any situation and we can change into a higher vibration. When we show up in an attitude of oneness and recognize presence everywhere, shifting our attitude towards experiences becomes easy. There are lots of different practices that can help us elevate this and help elevate our attitude throughout the day. We can start our day out right with the gratitude that we just talked about and add some intention setting. Visualize how we want our days to flow. Visualize things we would like to experience that day. Visualize things we'd like to see, feel, right? Set the intention to meet any challenge with ease, to be able to recognize those challenges as opportunities and be able to shift our focus. And doing that allows grace. It allows attitude that will be solution-oriented. And visualize solutions could be presented easily and effortlessly when we do have challenges. Include practices like affirmations and spiritual mind treatment or affirmative prayer. That is one of the quickest ways that I can turn my head around when I am in a not so great attitude, right? Is to say a quick affirmative prayer, do some affirmations, recenter myself in that oneness, and then I can continue in my path and continue on my day. Use conscious language. This is simple but not so simple. We are so conditioned to say things, right? For a long time, I couldn't take a compliment. Someone would give me a compliment, and I'd be like, oh, no, it's not that great, right? Don't do that. Don't say that about yourself. Use conscious language. Be aware of what you're actually speaking, because what you're speaking is part of your reality. That's part of what you're picking up in your energetic field and what you're giving out to the universe, right? Are we speaking kindly to ourselves? Are we speaking kindly to others? One of my favorite books is The Four Agreements. Whenever I have a student who really wants to get into spirituality, that's really the first book I start them out with is read the 4 agreements. And if you can just take one of those agreements and start practicing it more in your reality, like being intentional with your words, right? Then that can change. That can be a game changer for your entire existence. It's not easy, but if we're conscious with it, and we continue to be conscious with it, it becomes easier and easier, and it flows a lot easier. Choosing your focus, and focus your attention on what cultivates joy. A lot of times we're faced with choices. Do I do this or do I do this? Well, which one brings you more joy? Which one brings more happiness, more peace? All of those things that are connected with source, right? Maybe not. Choosing the one that makes more money can be great, especially when that money is aligned with what you need from source, right? But choosing something that is not necessarily aligned with source, but is more aligned with ego, is not going to bring you as much joy as it is if you are aligned with source, right? So making sure we're aligned with source first, and then using those things. But here's the thing about joy, right? It does need to be cultivated. It's not a destination, it's an actual practice. We need to practice joy. We need to choose joy. We need to choose to be 87 years old and living our best life in an assisted living home instead of sitting home watching DVDs by ourselves all day, right? It's a practice. And walking a joyful journey means recognizing that joy arises when we align with spiritual principle. When we put those things together, it is the natural outflow of gratitude and a centered attitude. It's the byproduct of living life from soul self and oneness. It's a practice, and the more we practice it, the more it flows to us through every aspect of our life and every avenue. The journey becomes lighter through joy. Living life moment to moment from an alignment with source, not ego, allows us to practice joy. There are always going to be challenges. There's never going to be a moment where there's not challenges. Our days are supposed to be filled with challenges. They're going to have contrast. But our inner stance determines our experience. So when our attitude is grounded in faith and gratitude, we walk through challenges with grace and ease. Living a joyful journey means living a life with intention and purpose. Living life on purpose means that we are not just reacting to what the world is throwing at us, but we're realizing that we are co-creators of how we feel. We don't have to practice gratitude and choose our attitude every day. We get to practice gratitude and choose our attitude every day. We get to be intentional with how authentically we show up in the world. We get to choose how aligned our actions are and how much they produce joy or don't produce joy. We become a living example of spiritual poise and inner abundance, and everything in our experience flows more easily. Our inner work sets the tone for the life that unfolds around us. So this week, I would like you to continue thinking about that. And I would like to invite you to build some practice, no matter how brief in your day, that will bring gratitude, that will help set your attitude in the direction that you would like it to go and co-create the feelings that you would like to feel with Source this week. Stay in that consciousness of gratitude and uplifting your attitude. So I want to do a quick practice just before we end this. I want you guys to just get settled for a minute. Close your eyes. Put your hand over your heart. And I want you to think about something that you experienced this week that maybe wasn't so pleasant. Maybe it didn't go the way that you wanted it to go. It was something that just kind of sits on your heart or sits in your stomach, and it's just like it doesn't feel real comfortable, right? And I want you to think about that person or that place or that situation. And I want you to pull out 3 things that you're grateful for about it. And if you're having a hard time, dig deep. It's there, I promise it's there. Everybody got it? Okay, we're going to take some deep breaths, and I want you to think about the things that you're grateful for. I want you to breathe in that gratitude. And as you release your breath, I want you to exhale and let all the stuff that you didn't like about it go. Let's breathe in gratitude. And exhale the old energy of what you don't like about it. Breathe in gratitude. And exhale that old energy. And one more, just thinking of all the things you're grateful for. And really letting go of everything you're not. And then just bring that gratitude back with you now. And when you're ready, open your eyes. That took about 60 seconds or less, and is a really easy practice to do. If you got a lunch break during the day, when I used to work for the airport, for airport security, nice, simple, no stress job at the busiest airport in the world. Those practices can be really important to keep us centered, and it's something you can do very quickly to recalibrate your attitude and recalibrate your gratitude and start living a more joyful journey. Thank you for bringing me joy today, and thank you for being here for this lesson. Namaste.